Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TMRP, the Metropolis Radio Podcast. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Warner Brothers' decision to move their entire 2021 film slate to HBO Max for day-and-date release. Now, for those that don't know, day-and-date release means that the movies will release in movie theaters and HBO Max on the same day. Most of you listening to this probably know that, but there's probably one or two that are going to go, what the hell does day-and-date mean? So, just in case for those people. But the funny part is about this whole thing was that Universal was actually credited for being the studio that wanted to kill the theater industry. Oh my God, they released Trolls World Tour on Premiere Video on Demand. Remember what's his nuts? Nathan I almost said Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fithian, came out and basically in a very like mafioso type tactic just went, the exhibitors will not forget this. Well, they aren't doing jack fucking shit with regards to Warner Brothers. So, I just want to take, let's take a look at the move that Warner just made with this announcement. Is it positive for some and negative for some? Well, obviously it's going to be positive and negative for some. I mean, that's a given. Is this going to be the death of the industry as we know it? Maybe, maybe not, but who knows? Was this an inevitable move? And what are the long-term ramifications of this moving forward? So, what is important to note, like this actually first broke on December 3rd. I'm pulling all my stuff from the Hollywood Reporter over the course of 5 days. So, buckle up, boys and girls. This is gonna be a long episode. Basically, so you have the first article comes out on the 3rd that basically says, Warner Brothers smashes box office windows, will send an entire 2021 slate to HBO Max and theaters. In an unprecedented announcement, the studio will send 17 films, including The Matrix 4, The Suicide Squad, and Dune, to its streaming service for 31 days the same day they hit theaters. And that's an important distinction right there. It's only going to be on HBO Max for 31 days, and then they're going to pull it and put it on Premiere Video on Demand. And then when it comes back to HBO Max, well, who knows? So let's go into this article from December 3rd. Warner Brothers is plotting a sweeping response to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which has shuttered movie theaters around the country. Yes, it has. After announcing that Wonder Woman 1984 will go to HBO Max as well as theaters on December 25th, and that was the first move. The studio has laid out a similar path for its 2021 slate amid uncertainty about when movie-going will get back to normal. I gotta stop trying to read this super duper fast. I gotta stop trying to be like Tim Pool here. The studio announced Thursday day-and-date releases for its 17 film slate, which will hit HBO Max for a 1-month window that starts the same day they will be available in U.S. theaters. The studio's 2021 slate includes projects such as The Suicide Squad, The Matrix 4, Dune, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Space Jam: A New Legacy. I actually really liked the first Space Jam movie, and well, also keep in mind for all the older folks that listen to me, I'm only 24, so I grew up on Space Jam. So yeah, I've got a bit of a bias there. Other films include Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, the live-action movie. I had no interest in Tom and Jerry. Mortal Kombat! Yes, they're making a new Mortal Kombat movie, and no, I could not resist that. If I blew out your eardrums, I don't fucking care. That was too good to pass up on. The next one, Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I think The Conjuring's getting a little too overblown for its own good. In the Heights, no interest. I'm not a musical guy. Reminiscence, Malignant, The Many Saints of Newark, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that is the prequel to what's that? The Sopranos. The Sopranos. It took me a minute, but I finally got there. King Richard and Cry Macho. Now, continuing on in the article, the unprecedented move is likely to catch theater owners off guard. No shit. And upsets a model that has been in place for decades. Warner Brothers stresses that these are pandemic only rules, but once something is broken, can you really put it back together again? Oh, you can, depending on the circumstances. This also raises serious concerns about the landscape of moviegoing in 2021, but that's a question right there. But once something is broken, can you really put it back together again? In this type of case, I would say that you can put it back together because this is going to really rely upon consumer choice. Is that To think that movie theaters are going to be able to operate at full capacity going into 2021, I think is an absolutely insane idea. And we will get more into detail in that a little bit later on. But if the consumers choose to go, you know what? I am gonna wait to go see these movies in theaters. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna stream them on HBO Max. Then you could see the theaters make a comeback. But, this is a case where, is consumer choice really all that bad? I would say no, and I would say if you're, it's actually very anti-consumer to basically say, no, 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 you are going to wait for the theaters when they release in the theaters, despite the fact that 2021, 2022, and potentially 2023 is going to have such a logjam of movies that, no one's going to make money. And honestly, having a logjam within your distribution platform is not good for the industry at large. But again, we're going to get into that more a little bit later on. I don't know how much later on. Now, getting back to the article, sources say these discussions were kept close to the vest and not shared with many exhibitors. Warner Brothers will likely have to agree to far more generous terms with theater owners to avoid them boycotting their films. Yeah, they probably will. Insiders say that Wonder Woman 1984 split off ticket sales is far better for exhibitors than normal. Sources also say the studio did not inform partners such as Legendary, which has Godzilla vs. Kong, that their films were included in this plan. And to be fair, Legendary also put up the money for Enola Holmes, and that went direct to Netflix. Warner Brothers sold the distribution rights to that, and I don't know what the talks were about that. And honestly, with the whole Legendary stuff of them, being kept out of the loop, you and I are not privy to the contracts that Warner Brothers signed with the financiers. The only people who have access to that are Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers themselves, unless if one side chooses to make the contract public, which I don't think they're going to. But okay, here's a quote from the chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios and Networks Groups. Quote, "We're living in unprecedented times which call for creative solutions, including this new initiative for the Warner Brothers Pictures Group," blah, 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 I already said. Said Ann Sarnoff, chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios and Networks Group, quote, no one wants films back on the big screen more than we do. We know new content is the lifeblood of theatrical exhibition. But we have to balance this with the reality that most theaters in the U.S. will likely operate at reduced capacity throughout 2021. That is a legitimate fear. With this unique one-year plan, we can support our partners in exhibition with a steady pipeline of world-class films, while also giving moviegoers who may not have access to theaters or aren't quite ready to go back to the movies the chance to see our amazing 2021 films. We see it as a win-win for film lovers and exhibitors, and we're extremely grateful to our filmmaking partners for working with us on this innovative response on these circumstances, end quote. And here's the thing, guys, and I just talked about this logjam here. If there's going to be a logjam, at some point, you're going to have to start offloading these movies. Sitting on The Matrix 4, The Suicide Squad, sitting on them for the next 3 or 4 years is going to do Warner Brothers absolutely no good. And there is no guarantee that even if they release these movies on a normal theatrical schedule right now, that they're even going to make the same amount of money that they would in pre-2020 circumstances. So, this is a time when, they're going to have to try to see if streaming is a little more viable. And the quote actually goes on, hold on, the banner's on my way. Here we go. Okay. Quote, after considering all available options and the projected slate of movie going throughout 2021, we came to the conclusion that this was the best way for Warner Media's motion picture business to navigate the next 12 months, said Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar. Quote, more importantly, we are planning to bring consumers 17 remarkable movies throughout the year, giving them the choice and the power to decide how they want to enjoy these films. And I do think that is important. I'm not quoting this. I'm not continuing with the quote. I think giving the consumers more choice for how they want to watch the movies is actually better and not worse. What's better? Hey, you can watch, Wonder Woman 1984 at home when your theater may not be open, Or we're going to now delay this movie for 2+ years. Oh, it's a movie you want to see? Oh, too bad. You got to wait 2+ years. At that point, are people even going to be interested in Wonder Woman 1984? No, they're not. So, continuing with the quote, given them the choice. Okay, here we go. I found my spot. Okay. Our content is extremely valuable unless it's sitting on a shelf not being seen by anyone. And that's what I'm even saying. It does Warner Brothers no good by sitting on all these movies for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, so we're going to continue. We believe this approach serves our fans, supports exhibitors and filmmakers, and enhances the HBO Max experience, which it does, creating value for all. Another quote right here. This is Toby Emmerich. Quote, this hybrid exhibition model enables us to best support our film's creative partners and moviegoing in general throughout 2021, said Warner Brothers Pictures Group Chairman Toby Emmerich. Quote, we have a fantastic wide-ranging slate of titles from talented and visionary filmmakers next year, and we're excited to be able to get these movies in front of audiences around the world. And, as always, we'll support all of our releases with innovative and robust marketing campaigns for their theatrical debuts while highlighting this unique opportunity to see our films domestically via HBO Max as well. End quote. Now, that is an important note. HBO Max is only available in the United States. It's not around the world yet at the time that this is being recorded and uploaded. So yes, HBO Max is only available in the United States, and Warner's 2021 slate will roll out internationally in theaters as planned. This move comes after Warner released Christopher Nolan's Tenet in theaters this summer amid challenges faced by the pandemic. And believe me, we will get into that a little later. Universal already showing the theatrical window, blah, blah, blah. All this bullshit. So basically, this was on December 3rd when they made the announcement. Then AMC Theaters chimed in around the same day, around that afternoon. Another article from The Hollywood Reporter. AMC Theaters says Warner Brothers streaming plan will, quote, sacrifice studio profits, which, taking it from that headline, they're not entirely wrong. But let's actually get into the article and actually see what they say. AMC Entertainment CEO Adam Aron said the studio's move was made, quote, to subsidize its HBO Max startup. Okay, a little bit of a heavy-hitting claim, but, I could see it because realistically, what does HBO Max really have? Unlike, if they can offer the day-and-date releases that it'll go to theaters and then HBO Max on the same day, well, that automatically increases HBO Max's stock. So, AMC Entertainment CEO, you can say all you want that this is a theater owner holding a grudge. He does have a point here. Okay, so getting into the article, AMC, the world's largest theater chain, is criticizing Warner Bros.' newly unveiled plan to send its 2021 feature films, which include the Suicide Squad sequel, Dune, and fourth Matrix movie, to the studio streaming service HBO Max on the same day the titles released in theaters, blah, blah, blah. We already discussed that. Okay, here's the actual quote from Adam Aron. Quote, clearly, Warner Media intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie studio division and that of its production partners and filmmakers to subsidize its HBO Max startup, said Adam Aron, CEO and president of AMC Entertainment, in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter. Quote, as for AMC, we will do all in our power to ensure that Warner does not do so at our expense. We will aggressively pursue economic terms that preserve our business, end quote. And yeah, that says a lot from a guy where AMC now has to sell off like $200 million in stock just to raise enough capital to get to next year. So honestly, you can say all you want that Warner Brothers is being the biggest bully of them all. Oh no! By taking advantage of the poor theaters, who the pandemic caused all of their problems. Bullshit. The theaters have been struggling. Keep this in mind, guys. The theaters have been struggling for at least the past 20 years. The COVID-19 sure as shit did not help the movie theaters, but it did not cause all of their problems like they want you to believe. But getting back to the article, the move will see the studio's 17 film slate hit HBO Max for a 1 month window that starts the same day the titles will be available in theaters in the US, and that is still important to note. They are only going to be on HBO Max for 31 days, and then they're going to pull them and put them on Premiere Video on Demand, so stuff like, Vudu, Movies Anywhere, I think Fandango owns Vudu now, but they used to have their own separate, I think they used to own Flickster back in the day. Yeah, kids, remember back in my day, before Vudu was really like the biggest game in town. It was Flickster. You know, iTunes and Flickster, those were your big digital retailers for digital movies. Getting back to the article, the move comes after the studio had already revealed plans to release Wonder Woman 1984 day and date on Christmas Day, a plan that AMC says it was notified about. And here's one thing that I'm going to say. I do have this point that I tried to make last night on the Nicotina show. I was on there with Enosh, but I couldn't get this point off. You know, releasing Wonder Woman 1984 day and date is like the perfect thing that Warner Brothers can do. Because the point I was trying to make is look at where Marvel is right now with regards to their Disney Plus shows. Falcon and Winter Soldier is done. It's just waiting to be released. WandaVision got delayed into January, which made no fucking sense to delay that show into January. They should have released it in this December, but whatever. We're not privy to that. We're not privy to that deal. The point I was trying to get to, though, was that Falcon and Winter Soldier cannot be released on Disney Plus simply because they are building off of a plot point that is in the Black Widow movie, and the Black Widow movie got pushed back nearly a year. It was originally supposed to come out in April 2020, and now it's not set to come out until April 2021. So can Disney and Marvel continue to afford to hold out and hope and pray to God that the theaters are going to magically return to normal? I don't think so. In fact, you know, now this is not confirmed. I want to stress this. This is not confirmed. Please do not take this as gospel. It would not surprise me if Disney was in talks to just make Black Widow a Disney Plus exclusive. That way they can get their other Disney Plus shows out. And then, you know, if the theaters can't reopen by the time Eternals comes out, do it with that. Because now Warner Brothers is now actively ahead with their DC universe. And the one thing that we know about, you know, about these billionaires that run the studios, this is just one giant pissing contest to them. You know, let's be 100% honest. You know, Marvel doesn't want to lose their market share, even though they are. You know, let's not kid ourselves. You know, they are on a decline from Avengers Endgame because Avengers Endgame was the definitive ending. But they have lost more of that market share since they kept, you know, delay all of their movies and all their TV shows. Whereas, you know, here comes Warner Brothers that basically says, okay, you know what? You want the Snyder Cut? We're going to give it to you in 2021. Oh, and also, we're not going to delay Wonder Woman 1984 anymore. We're going to put that on HBO Max on Christmas Day, same day as theaters. That way we're not too far behind in our release plans. So right then and there, the DCEU automatically has a much stronger foothold in the audience's mind over Marvel. So again, Marvel releasing Black Widow to Disney Plus, do not be shocked if that actually comes true. Now, getting back to the article, we have a quote from an exhibitor who is not named. Okay, let's read the quote. Quote, "These coronavirus impacted times are uncharted waters for all of us, which is why AMC signed on to an HBO Max exception to customary practices for one film only, Wonder Woman 1984, being released by Warner Bros. At Christmas when the pandemic appears it will be at its height." Read a statement from the exhibitor which added, quote, "However, Warner now hopes to do this for all their 2021 theatrical movies, despite the likelihood that with vaccines right around the corner, the theater business is expected to recover." And let's also keep this in mind. How many people are going to run out and get like the first wave of a vaccine? I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means necessary, but you should never, ever, ever get the first wave of a vaccine because you don't know if you're going to grow like a second head or a third arm from it. You know, if you want to get the first wave of the COVID-19 vaccine, you know, great. But if you grow a second head or a third arm or 8 more fingers, you know, that's the risk that you run by being a guinea pig. But, you know, before this gets too political, we're going to get back to the article here. CEO Aron added that the company has already started a, quote, "immediate and urgent dialogue with the studio." AMC announced that today it would be selling 200 million shares in the hope of improving its liquidity, has seen its stock fall some 16% by Thursday afternoon. Yeah, AMC, and I have previously reported on this in other episodes of TMRP, that AMC is really not doing that good. So they can sit there, pound their fucking chest all fucking day long that, you know, well, if you're gonna break the theatrical window, then we will not screen your movies in our theaters. Yeah, says the movie theater that may not exist in 6 months. So you can continue to sit there, beat your chest all fucking day long, but at the end of the day, if you're not gonna exist, they're not gonna care, because that's all it is. It's a bunch of saber rattling and chest beating from you. It's just, you know, a bunch of fucking crying. Anyway, you know, so getting back to the article, final paragraph, Iran concluded, quote, as this issue gets sorted out, we are nonetheless encouraged that vaccines protecting society at large against the coronavirus are very much at hand. But here's the problem. Though. You know what would have protected society at large from COVID-19? Not shut everything down. Had we been allowed to just go out and achieve the herd immunity, have like 90% of us contract it and kick it, given that if you're under the age of 65, the chances of you recovering are above 99%, but below 100%. You know, that would have protected the most vulnerable, but no, we got to lock everything down for the year and hope and pray to God that this vaccine works. And by the way, just because you get shot with a vaccine doesn't mean that that's going to be a cure for the virus. And a perfect fucking example, I got a flu shot every year for 3 years. My mother made me back in the day. Guess when the only time I got the flu was? Right after I got the fucking flu shot. I did not get a flu shot. I think the last time I got a flu shot was, I want to say it was 2009. No, 2008. The next time I caught the flu was in 2013, and I caught via a stomach flu, and I caught the flu again, but I caught it back last year, and that was only because someone at my dad's office, you know, had the flu and spread it around to everybody, because no, can't miss a day of work, so we got to get everybody infected, and that got me the flu, and I was bedridden for 5 days. You know, but still, you know, just because you get the vaccine, you know, that's not going to be the miracle pill here. The chances, you just increased your chances of contracting it, because that's all a vaccine is. They're going to introduce you with a little bit of the virus, that way your body knows how to kick it. Well, wait a minute, why couldn't we do that from March? Just, you know, head out and, you know, contract it ourselves, and then achieve the herd immunity. Oh, no. Can't possibly do that because, oh my God, think of the children. Anyway, guys, I have now been going for, and I'm not going to edit this out, I have now been going for about almost 23 minutes straight without a break. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pause the recording right here. We are going to do a jump cut. I am going to come right back to this in about 5 minutes, continue to record. And yeah, we will continue with our discussion on the Warner Brothers situation and streaming to HBO Max. One rough jump cut later, and I am back recording this. I am not going to bother to edit this, guys, because I'm simply just too lazy to edit something like this. But okay, so to continue on, we covered the first couple of articles from the Hollywood Reporter. That's the initial announcement from December 3rd and AMC reacting immediately after. To now, over on December 4th, Hollywood Reporter put out, Warner Brothers' streaming bet draws mixed reaction from theater owners, which, you know, I think we all pretty much saw coming. So I am going to butcher the hell out of this word, and I am sorry about that. Beleaguered. Is that beleaguered? Beleaguered exhibitors have had a relatively subdued response so far to the studio's day and date plans for 2021 features. Quote, once competition comes back this summer, theater owners will hold out for better terms. End quote. All right, now let's get into the article. Whoopsie, scroll down a little too far. Okay, in normal times, Warner Brothers' proclamation that its entire 2021 slate of films will be released simultaneously on HBO Max and in U.S. theaters, completely shattering the theatrical window for the first time in history, would prompt a chorus of boycott threats, which, yes, they would. And, who was it? Was it Comcast? Back in, like, 2005 was thinking about doing that when they first launched their on-demand service, where it's like, hey, we can put movies out here on day-and-date releases, and all the theater owners flooded out, just came out in droves, and basically said anyone who puts their movie on Comcast On Demand and DirecTV On Demand will not have a screen in our theaters. So they all backed down. They all backed down. It never happened. Well, we're going back to that time. It's just been 15 years. And I understand that a lot of people do have, short-term memory. And I also understand that was also a pretty long time ago. 15 years ago. That was 2005. That's when Star Wars Revenge of the Sith came out in theaters. The last good Star Wars movie to ever come out, in my opinion. Actually, no, I can't really say that because, Solo was a missed opportunity. That one wasn't too bad. The Last Jedi wasn't too bad either. Episode 7 and 9 fucking sucked. Rogue One sucked. Where are the others? Mandalorian's not bad, but anyway, enough about Star Wars. Getting back to the article here. Instead, the reaction from the exhibition community, ravaged by the COVID pandemic and in desperate need of content for likely months to come, was relatively subdued, save for AMC's outspoken CEO Adam Moran, who we've already covered, so we don't need to go down that road again. So far, the National Association of Theater Owners, aka NATO, which is the dumbest name ever, because as soon as I hear NATO, I think of the military organization that flies all the planes and drops on the bombs on all the third world shitholes. No offense if you live in a third world shithole. So getting back to the article, so far the National Association of Theater Owners hasn't weighed in. Surprise, surprise, because they tried to in April when basically Nathan Fillion came out and told Universal, exhibitors will not forget this, and are acting like very mafioso. I think National Association of Theater Owners basically understands that they do not have a leg to stand on. They have absolutely no bargaining power at this point. Getting back to the article though. But the battle is far from over, and more could sound their own rallying cry once the COVID-19 crisis ends and moviegoing reserves in earnest. That is going to be quite a while. Because I think you're going to have a lot of people more fearful to go back to the theaters initially. So them saying that it's not going to return to normal till at least end of 2021 minimum, I think is a conservative estimate. It's a good conservative estimate. Okay, back to the article. While some in the exhibition community had a sense that such a major announcement was coming from Warner's, most didn't learn of this drastic move until the statement went out. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that the bold initiative, orchestrated by Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, was kept close to the vest on the Burbank lot. Since joining Warner Media in May, the former Hulu chief has undertaken a significant restructuring. Undertaken a significant restructuring of the AT&T division to prioritize its streaming bet, HBO Max, and grow its subscriber base. Which, okay, yeah, if he formerly worked for Hulu, yeah, he would probably know a thing or two about streaming. Hopefully, AMC, the country's largest theater circuit, said it signed onto the studio's previously unveiled plan to do a day-and-date release of Wonder Woman 1984 on December 25th because of the ongoing COVID-19 crisis and widespread closures. But going forward is another matter. We've already covered this. This is the Warner Media intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie. And I actually apologize, guys. I actually did not get into what I was going to get into right here, so I'll get into it right now. They are right when they're saying that there has never been a billion-dollar franchise started, a billion-dollar movie made on a streaming service. Now, here's where I will disagree. In the fact that some people are claiming that there has never been a, multi-billion-dollar franchise started on a streaming service. There is one exception to that rule, and I understand it's just an exception, but everybody's going to point to it, is Netflix's Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a major, major franchise all over the world. Granted, that's a streaming show, but still, don't say that there have not been successful franchises started on streaming, because that's good. That's just the one right now. I know Bosch on Amazon Prime is insanely popular. Same with Jack Ryan, also on Amazon Prime. So while yes, you can start up very successful franchises on streaming, you're not going to make $1 billion off of a single movie on a streaming service. And that much I do agree with all these online pundits making that claim. Article continues. Insiders say that AMC is receiving 60 to 65% of Wonder Woman 1984 U.S. ticket sales. Okay, for those of you guys that don't exactly know how that works, okay, because not Warner, what am I trying to think of? Wonder Woman 1984 is going to streaming day and date. Okay, how a normal theatrical release works is that the studio takes the 60 to 65% cut off U.S. ticket sales for the first couple of weeks at at a movie theater, and then that percentage, for the studio goes down, and the percentage for the theaters goes up. So, if a movie does really, really well, like Avatar was in theaters for 3 months. I think the last movie to stay in theaters for 3 months was James Cameron's Avatar. So instead of the studio receiving that 60 to 65% cut off the ticket sales, it's AMC. So the tables have turned. So at least AMC is keeping the majority of the ticket sales for the day and date release of Wonder Woman 1984, because who knows how many people are going to go out to a movie theater. Now back to the article. Usually the studio receives around a 60% take on tentpoles, while 2017's Wonder Woman grossed $412 million domestically. Expectations are far lower for the sequel's run in theaters given the circumstances, which, yes, that is true. And I did already explain that just in a, roundabout Robin Hood's barn there. Thursday's proclamation was especially surprising to Hollywood and exhibitors since it encompasses the entirety of Warner's 2021 slate. Many in the film industry believe moviegoing in the U.S. will resume in earnest in the summer. I think that is very wishful thinking. Based on promising news about COVID-19 vaccinations, Warner's, which stretched the day-and-date initiative is for 1 year only, believes differently. Yeah, I could see that, but still, guys, a lot of people are not going to get the vaccinations right away. That is very, very wishful thinking there. Okay, so here's Toby Emmerich again. Quote: "We're excited about the vaccines and the programs that are going to be to distribute them, but talking to the epidemiologists that have been consulting with us, we think it will be toward the end of the year that it seems like movie theaters and Broadway theaters will return to normalcy. It could be a pretty long time," Warner Brothers Pictures chief Toby Emmerich told The Hollywood Reporter on Thursday, adding that the company remains committed to the theatrical experience. Quote: "We thought it was better to guarantee as many movies as we could for the year for the global theatrical marketplace so they would stay open and know they have a product coming," end quote. Others were more willing to adapt a wait-and-see attitude. Quote: "We get it for the most part. We are glad they are positioning it as a temporary pandemic model, but it is disturbing that they decided it was going to be all of 2021, says another top exhibition source who believes the summer will bring a major box office recover. Quote: "Once competition comes back this summer, theater owners will hold out for better terms," end quote. Again, I think summer of 2021, movie theaters are going to go back to normal. Again, very, very, very wishful thinking on the movie theaters part. And honestly, guys, I could do an entire episode of TMRP or just a regular video on basically why the movie theaters basically had this coming, and they had it coming for a very, very long time. But if I were to try to do it here, guys, we would probably be here for another hour, and I don't want to keep you guys for that much for that long. So the exhibition sector took a further beating on Wall Street Thursday. AMC, which disclosed it would be selling 200 million shares, blah, blah, blah. Saw its stock fell. Okay. Cinemark, the third largest theater chain in the U.S., finished the day down 21%, while IMAX slid 8%. Okay. Quote, "They got pummeled after people saw the news that Warner is seeing their 2021 slate and doing a simultaneous release," end quote, says Eric Handler of MKM Partners. Cinemark noted in a statement that Warner Brothers has not, quote, "provided any details for the hybrid distribution model of their 2021 films," adding, "In light of the current operating environment, we are making near-term booking decisions on a film-by-film basis." Yeah, whatever. Warner's isn't the first studio, okay, so this part actually says, Warner's isn't the first studio to test theatrical windows amid the pandemic, but it has gone the furthest. Quote, "These companies are trying to achieve scale as fast as possible, and they are all taking major steps to drive subscribers. And Warner Brothers is way behind, and they needed to do something big to get their sub numbers up a lot higher," notes Handler. Quote, there is a lot of box office uncertainty right now. Yes, if they release all their movies to theaters, there is no guarantee that any of the movies would be profitable. And I promise you guys, I will get into that a little bit later. But there is a couple of articles after this, and we'll really get into that. After touting the success of the PVOD release, banner got in my way. Okay, after touting the success of the PVOD release of Trolls Will Troll in March, I thought that was April, actually. Didn't that release April 10th? But anyway, whatever. Universal was threatened by AMC with a ban that would bar the studio's features from playing the nation's largest theater chain. Yeah, like I said, they acted very mafioso. In July, the studio and exhibitor revealed a landmark partnership that allows Universal movies to be made available on PVOD in the U.S. after just 17 days of play in cinemas. No, it wasn't just 17 days. They're actually omitting something like that. Fuck. I think it's 28 days. I think they shortened that's what it was. They shortened the theatrical window to 28 days, but if the movie does not make more than $50 million on opening weekend, then it's shortened to 17 days. Basically ensuring that the movie theaters get at least 3 weekends, 3 full weekends in the theaters. With AMC sharing in the PVOD revenue. A similar deal was later inked with Cinemark and Cineplex in Canada. In November, Disney unveiled a restructure that is oriented around servicing Disney Plus, which now tells some 73 million subscribers. Blah blah blah. All this hunky-dory bullshit. 2021 HBO Max subscribers will be delivered spectacle as they are able to stream The Suicide Squad, The Matrix 4, Dune, Godzilla vs. King Kong, and the Space Jam sequel, all considered big budget tentpoles, says Sean Robbins, chief analyst at boxoffice.com. Quote, "At the end of the day, it's a risk. It's not just a risk for the theaters, but it's a risk for the intellectual properties that Warner Brothers has, because if the experiment doesn't pay off, they have no committed some of their biggest potential moneymakers to a platform, HBO Max, that is unproven." And that is true. Why wouldn't they try to go for like a Netflix, Amazon, or Apple deal? Because HBO Max right now, he is actually correct. It's not a proven success yet. So this could be one of two things. HBO Max could get really, really big after this, or it can, bomb out really bad. It can go down like the fucking Hindenburg. Handler agrees that a studio could leave hundreds of millions of dollars on the table if they bypass a traditional release for their bigger tentpoles. But in Hollywood's new arms race, all bets are off. Quote, "Investors want to see big subscriber growth numbers, and they are willing to accept losses, significant losses, at the moment in exchange for rapid sub growth." He adds, quote, "But you have AT&T, who has a mountain of debt, and yes, they do. They can't afford major losses for an extended period of time." He's not wrong on that. And then to close out the article, adds Robbins, quote, "It is surprising that they jumped on this new strategy before seeing how the first experiment goes with Wonder Woman. They are cashing in their chips for next year without seeing those results." And yeah, I think Warner Brothers kind of pulled the cart before the horse here by instantly jumping out and saying it. I do think that there is going to be a backtrack of sorts. I think some of the movies will go direct to theaters and not HBO Max, while some are going to maintain day and day, but that is left to be seen. And then also on December 4th, the Regal owner, another Hollywood Reporter article, Regal owner reacts to Warner Brothers streaming move, looks forward to deal on, quote, "proper window and terms." Warner Brothers will look to reach an agreement about the proper window and terms that will work for both sides, Cineworld said in a statement. For those that don't know, Cineworld is the corporate overlord to Regal Cinemas. It is called Regal Cinemas here in North America, but I think it's called Cineworld over in the UK where they're based. So reading here, this one actually isn't terribly long. Regal owner Cineworld Group has reacted to Warner Brothers' move to shift its entire 2021 slate of films for a simultaneous release on HBO Max and in U.S. theaters by looking beyond the pandemic to an eventual agreement with the Hollywood studios on windowing. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm getting a little tired here. Quote, "Cineworld was aware of WB's plan." WB is Warner Brothers, by the way. So I'll restart that quote. "Cineworld was aware of Warner Brothers' plan to release Wonder Woman directly to its streaming service, which has been announced at a time when our cinemas remain closed in the U.S. Regal and UK Cineworld," which, yes, I have previously reported on. They chose to close down after No Time to Die got delayed yet again. They finally just said, okay, we're going to shut down and we're going to operate on minimal cash, and hopefully we can come back in 2021 when all these movies are going to get released and we make a shit ton of money. And, of all the movie theater chains, Regal and Cineworld are actually in the best position to do that. But back to the article, the UK-based exhibitor said, as it painted the backdrop for Warner Brothers choosing a day-and-date release for all its 2021 features, Cineworld then looked then looked to the promise of a coronavirus vaccine and the return of audiences in big numbers to the local multiplex post-pandemic. Quote, "This will generate significant relief for our industry and enable our cinemas to make a great comeback," end quote, the exhibition giant said. But here's going to be the question. When are the crowds going to come out in droves? Some theaters think it's going to be, like I said, in summer of 2021. And personally, I believe that is a lot of wishful thinking. I think the conservative estimate is going to be by the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. Because, like I said, most people do not get wave 1 of the vaccine because, personally, I'm not willing to be a guinea pig because I don't want to grow 8 fingers, a third arm, and a second head because, oh, whoopsie, we put in the wrong mixture. Please sign this form before we shoot you with this, toxin. That way, in case of a mutation happens, you can't sue us. But anyway, back to the article. Cineworld previously criticized Comcast on NBC Universal's Universal Pictures for pushing ahead with its premiere VOD rollout of Trolls World Tour amid the pandemic, but Warner Brothers shattered the theatrical window with its HBO Max bet, has shifted Cineworld's negotiating stance, and I'm surprised that they are omitting Scoob from that, because Warner Brothers has done this, but they did this before with Scoob, and one of the unique things with Scoob was you could either pay $20 for the rental, or for an additional $5, you could just, you could pay to watch the movie in perpetuity. You can add it to your Vudu account. So, why not pay the $25 if you were already going to rent it for, the 48-hour period? Because all you need to do is watch it twice, and now the movie is basically paid for itself. But, getting back to the article, quote, "We believe that at such a time, Warner Brothers will look to reach an agreement about the proper window in terms that will work for both sides. Big movies are made for the big screen, and we cannot wait to reopen our cinemas in Q1, that's Q1, in order to offer our customers, as always, the best place to watch a movie," the company said. And they're not wrong. There is something about going to see a blockbuster on the big screen. So yeah, they're probably going to look to ink some sort of deal once Cineworld, reopens. But ending off the article, final paragraph here. Cineworld has faced steep quarterly losses and revenue drops amid the novel coronavirus pandemic, which led to cinema closures worldwide and the delay of the Hollywood Temple releases in 2021, or a move online to streaming platforms. Again, end of the article. That's basically, Regal's 2 cents. But here's the big one that I wanted to get to. So December 7th, that is when Christopher Nolan decided to come out. And, here Christopher Nolan rips HBO Max as, quote, "worst streaming service," denounces Warner Brothers' plan. So now let's get right into this article. This, Christopher Nolan rips HBO Max as worst streaming service ever, blah, blah, blah. All right, too many insiders. Warner Media's blindsiding of talent and their reps with news that it would send 17 films directly to HBO Max in 2021 felt like an insult. For many in the movie business, producers, directors, stars, and their representatives, December 3rd, 2020 marked an infamous milestone. Okay, so here comes the Christopher Nolan bit. Quote, "Some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were..." Oh, sorry about that. "We're working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were working for the worst streaming service." Filmmaker Christopher Nolan, whose relationship with Warner's dates back to Insomnia in 2002. For those that don't remember, that was the one with Al Pacino, Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank. That was actually a remake of a Swedish film. But anyway, getting back to the article, sent a statement to the Hollywood Reporter, added Nolan, quote, "Warner Brothers has an incredible machine for getting a filmmaker's work out everywhere, both in theaters and in the home, and they are dismantling it as we speak. They don't even understand what they're losing. The decision makes no economic sense," I beg to differ, "and even the most casual Wall Street investor can see the difference between disruption and dysfunction." But here's the problem with Christopher Nolan's statement with regards to this. He was so fucking adamant about putting Tenet in theaters. Tenet is going to go to the theater. My movie's going to go to theaters. Blah, 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 blah. Right? So Warner Brothers finally caved, placated to Christopher Nolan's ego, and went fine. And they put it out in theaters, and... Oh, when did they put it out? Was that like August or September when they put it out? It might have been late July. And, here we go. I don't actually have to look at the IMDb page. Actually, yeah, I do. Hold on. I'm actually curious. How big of the budget was Tenet? I genuinely don't remember. I know I talked about it a lot on the on TMRP, but I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, the budget for this $205 million budget, and guess how big the gross was? $359,900,000 worldwide on a budget of $205 million. That is a box office bomb. And it only grossed $57,600,000 in the US. So in the market where Warner Brothers has the biggest profit share, they actually made the least amount of money because yes, when you release a movie overseas, and now this is different from territory to territory, but traditionally you make less money in the foreign box office than what you make in the domestic. So Warner Brothers caved to Christopher Nolan's ego and then went, okay, we're gonna put Tenet in theaters, and it bombed spectacularly. So now Warner is in the position that they're in, where it's like, okay, do we risk putting stuff like Dune or The Matrix 4 or Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters and have those bomb as well, or we could promote a day and date release and we could put it on HBO Max. We get a huge amount of, subscribers as a result. It's a win-win for us. They're gonna go with option number 2 versus just, we're gonna stick to theaters only. Now we're gonna continue on with the article. On that now infamous morning, Ann Sarnoff, who ungainly title is chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios Networks Group and Warner Brothers Film Studios, Toby Emmerich, called the heads of the major agencies to drop a bombshell. Warner's was about to smash the theatrical window, sweeting its Star 17 picture of 2021, blah, blah, blah. Debuting them same day. Yeah, we've already talked about that at length at this point. Surprisingly to some in the industry, sources say the idea was the brainchild of Warner Brothers' COO Carolyn Blackwood, who, looking at a relatively weak 2021 slate, saw an opportunity to avoid the humiliation of potentially bad grosses while currying favor with streamer-obsessed higher-ups, which, again, that's also a good thing for Warner if they can avoid the embarrassment of, bomb after bomb after bomb. Why wouldn't you take that? Now, okay, continuing on with the article, the instant response in Hollywood was outrage and a massive girding for battle. Quote, Warner's has made a grave mistake, says one top talent agent who is not named. Continuing on with the quote, never have this many people been this upset with one entity. Like others, he had spent much of, end quote, like others, he had spent much of the day dealing with calls from stunned and angry clients. And that swooshing sound you hear, it's the lawyers strooping their blades as they prepare for battle. Ooh, we're going to have this big battle, this lawyers versus the big evil movie studios. Who will win? Tune in to WrestleMania 38. Or to start pre-orders right now start at $59.99 per. If you want it in HD, that is $79.99, and if you want that in 4K, the 4K is going to run you $99.99 on day 1, and then on day 2 it's going to be $149.99 on day 2. But remember, you get that 4K special, and the main event, Warner Brothers CEOs versus talent agency lawyers. So stay tuned for that one. Okay, here we go. Strubbing their blades. Okay, continuing on with the article. That Warner's was self-dealing and shifting these movies to its own streamer. We will get to that. Perhaps, or that the company acted in bad faith. Some talent reps say the decision affects not only profit participants, but others who have worked on films, as the move might affect residual payments. That is a legitimate grievance, and I will give them that. For those that don't remember, Frank Darabont, the showrunner for The Walking Dead, he was the showrunner for season 1. He actually made it into the second season. I think he got up to episode 4 before AMC fired him. He actually sued AMC at the time for, I think it was like $280 million for unpaid residuals. And he had cited that because AMC had not only owned the show, but controlled the distribution, that they were using that to cheat him out of his residuals. So that one I can see for people like James Gunn who have, back-end deals with the Suicide Squad, and how Warner could very easily screw him out of the residuals that he is owed via the contracts that he had signed. So yes, so this point here I will give. Where does it say? Okay, I'll just read the point here. Some talent reps say the decision affects not only profit participants but others who have worked on films, as the move might affect residual payments. I will continue to say that is a legitimate grievance. They expect and hope that the guilds will get involved. They fucking will. The guilds, the unions, the Teamsters, they are not going to take this shit lying down. And a fun fact, Warner Brothers had to actually pay Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins, I think upwards in the tens of millions of dollars to get Wonder Woman 1984 to stream on HBO Max on that day and date. And now to be fair to this article, the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, declined to comment. Well, obviously, if they're looking to, pick a fight with Warner Brothers, they're not going to reveal their strategy too early. Now, the article continues on. The Warner's move possesses big, maybe even existential questions. How do theaters survive this supposedly one-time, excused by the pandemic move? Genies are hard to put back in the bottle, and no one believes Warner's intended this to be temporary anyway. That is true, but what's going to save the theaters is that consumer choice. If not enough people are streaming these movies on HBO Max, and if enough people are saying, you know what, I want to wait to go see Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters. I want to wait to go see The Matrix 4 in theaters. I want to wait to go see Dune on the big screen. Then the theaters are going to come back because of consumer choice, not based on the fact that, that the unions are going to successfully take these down off of the, HBO Max service. But to get back to the article, what damage will be done to exhibitors by training customers that if they sit on their sofas, the biggest movies will come? See, I'm wholeheartedly, I am not against giving consumers the choice. If some people would rather sit at home and watch it on their TVs, I'm actually one of those people. I'd rather just sit home and watch the movie on my TV. That's great. But there's some of you that are going to be listening to this that probably would rather want to see Godzilla vs. Kong, Matrix 4, Dune, Space Jam sequel on the big screen. And if that's you, that's great. But, this is great for me because now I don't have to, go deal with a bunch of screaming 5-year-olds and to go see the newest movies. Back to the article. And will Warner's face serious backlash from important producers, filmmakers, guilds, and on-screen talent? Maybe, but you can always tell some of those people that they need to curb their fucking egos. Christopher Nolan. Oh, damn! Sorry, guys. I got some cut my throat there. I don't know what that was. Quote: Warner's was the quintessentially talent-friendly, filmmaker-friendly studio, which that was true, because they were touting that the DCEU was going to be director-driven instead of producer-driven, instead of what, Marvel did with theirs, which, the MCU was all producer-driven. Well, the DCEU is going to be all, director-driven, and that didn't really go well. But back to the article. Quote, now Warner's isn't the first place, second place, or third place you want to go to, end quote. I don't know about that, but okay. Many in Hollywood think Warner Media opted for this. Damn it. I can't stand the fucking Hollywood Reporter and their website, because if you scroll down too far and you try to scroll back up, oh, here's the banner. We're going to block an entire couple sentences. Anyway, back to the article before I lose my fucking mind. Many in Hollywood think Warner Media opted for this drastic move to play to streaming infatuated Wall Street and redo the botched launch of HBO Max, which, let's be honest, the only reason HBO Max had a botched launch was because it did not launch on Amazon and Roku devices. Let's be 100% honest with that. That's the only reason why HBO Max had a botched launch from begin with, which has netted a dismal 8.6 million quote-unquote activated subscribers so far. And for those that don't know, if you're with AT&T and you have a certain package, you get HBO Max for free. I'm actually one of those. I actually get HBO Max for free, and the only place I can stream it is on my PlayStation 4. I would love to stream HBO Max on my Roku, but because streaming HBO Max on my PlayStation 4 is not exactly the best way to, to watch something like a Netflix or HBO Max. Back to the article. but one prominent agent notes that the top executives at Warner Media and its parent AT&T CEO John Stankey, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, and, of course, Sarnoff, quote, don't understand the movie business and they don't understand talent relations. Maybe yes and no, but I think you're seeing a very drastic shift in the market that was inevitable to begin with. Because like I said, guys, theaters have been having a lot of problems over the last 20 years at least. So this move to streaming was entirely inevitable because, there's no guarantee that your movie's going to make $1 billion in the theaters because, the people actually have to be willing to go to the theaters in order to do that. And they have to be willing to see your movie as well, just because, this isn't like Field of Dreams where if you build it, they will come. No, you actually have to, put the work behind it. You actually have to build something that people want. But getting back to the article, while Kilar plays what is seen as lip service to movies, industry veterans say Warner's is sacrificing the huge profit that comes from selling movies in multiple formats and on multiple platforms around the world. Again, I don't see Warner Brothers completely... I don't see them, refusing to release, Wonder Woman 84 and Godzilla vs. Kong on stuff like DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. Just simply for the matter of fact is, it doesn't cost that much to do a print run of it. And Warner Brothers is a big enough studio. I think they actually own their own distribution service for DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. And the cost per unit on those is less than $1 a disc. So if the movie does really, really well, there's way too much money to be made in the DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K market, believe it or not. That's still a pretty big market. And with Warner being with them being a publicly traded company, they do have fiduciary responsibility. If there is money to be made, they have to go for it. And if the CEO doesn't go for it, then the shareholders do have the right to elect a new CEO. But back to the article. Even before Warner's made its play, there was grumbling among agents that Sarnoff, who has been on the job for more than a year, had yet to get acquainted with key players on the film side or make much of an impression at all. That's why many are focusing their wrath on Emmerich. Quote, Toby's passion is only about managing up, says one agent who represents major Warner's talent. By the weekend following the announcement, Emmerich was calling important filmmakers with projects set for 2021 to assure them that their movies wouldn't be dropped on the streaming service without warning. Quote, as if anyone would believe he had any control over the situation, says one producer with a major Warner property. Quote, Toby probably had a really bad weekend, not that I feel bad for him, end quote. According to a source, Emmerich tried to soothe In the Heights director John M. Chu by pointing out that the movie was still getting a global theatrical release, but industry insiders say the studio is pretending that pirates won't pounce as soon as these films are streaming on HBO Max. As soon as one does, there is a, quote, excellent version of the movie everywhere immediately, notes one industry veteran. One important thing to note about piracy, in order to really be good at it, you have to kind of know what you're doing. You have to know how to torrent, and it's not as simple as, oh, I just go on to BitTorrent, I click on the download button, and it's instantly downloading. No, there's a lot more work to torrenting than just that, and I am pleading the fifth beyond this, as I do not want to incriminate myself on my own show. So let's get back to the article. Yo ho ho, a pirate's life for me. Warner Media's decision to attack without warning may be understandable given the blowback that was foreseeable, but to many insiders, blindsiding talent and their reps seemed like an insult. Sources say studio president Courtney Valenti was the only Warner exec who dared to speak up about the need to reach out to key creative partners, but she was quickly hushed. Oh no! Oh crap, I scrolled down too far. Okay, here we go. I got it back. Okay. Much of this outrage will surely be mitigated if Warner Media is prepared to write big checks to all the profit participants in the films that have been moved. Again, the unpaid residuals, I will give you that. That is a legitimate grievance. So for anyone claiming that all these people are just whining and bitching, no. Unpaid residuals, that is a legitimate grievance. Back to the article, quote, it's a critical time for them at the highest level to make this right with the talent, says one rep. end quote. But agents say the guidance that's been provided so far suggests that the company isn't planning to offer what is now called Wonder Woman money in honor of the rich deal the studio gave profit participants in Wonder Woman 1984 when that film was moved to HBO Max. Well, they might, you don't know. Warner Media had to shovel tens of millions at Gal Gadot, or Gal Gadot, however you pronounce her name, I don't know, and the other key players because the company wants a third in the series, but that sets the bar high. Sources say even Suicide Squad director James Gunn, who is platform agnostic, was not pleased when the studio followed its shocking announcement by floating a lackluster formula for compensating him and other profit participants in the film. At minimum, Warner Media has opened the door to arduous negotiations with the major agencies over compensation for multiple profit participants in 17 movies. Did the Warner's numbers crunchers in projecting the cost of premiering its entire 2021 slate on HBO Max factor in the cost of widely anticipated legal challenges? Again, the only way you can have any legal challenges is if there's any unpaid residuals, which I could see coming down the pipeline. I mean, that was inevitable, going from, theatrical distribution to, streaming distribution, because on a streaming service, Warner doesn't have to disclose the numbers, whereas if it got released theatrically, then all of these people have access to those box office numbers so they can see if there are any unpaid residuals publicly. Getting back to the article, industry insiders believe Warner Media may have opened itself up to those, especially as it is selling the movies to its own streaming platform when none of the profit participants has had a chance to figure out what Apple or Netflix might have paid for the opportunity to stream their projects day and date. Well, again, see, here's the problem with these profit participants. Depending on those contracts, they may not have a say in any of that. Keep in mind, a lot of times if you want to get a back-end deal, you agree to take less money up front in exchange that if the movie does really, really well in theaters, you're going to get a take of the box office. But traditionally, you don't have a say in whether, in what streaming platform that it goes to. That's completely asinine. That would be complete anarchy for a company to, rely on that. Allegations of self-dealing are almost sure to follow. Yes, very similar to, Frank Darabont and AMC, from many, many years ago. Many think Legendary will be the first to file a legal challenge. The company fired off a previous lawyer letter after Netflix offered something north of $225 million for the rights to Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, that is actually rather interesting. Do they have the budget up for that movie, Godzilla vs. Kong? I'm jumping over to IMDb really quick right now. Godzilla vs. Kong. Okay. What was the budget on that movie if there is a reported one right now? Okay, I'm not seeing one on the IMDb page. The article might go into that, actually. So, getting back to that, which has seen its release date move from March 2020 to November to May 2021. Though Legendary financed 75% of the movie, Warner's had the power to block the sale and did. Legendary are a bunch of fucking morons for, agreeing to that deal. Legendary asked whether the studio would then give it a deal to stream the movie on HBO Max and got no clear answer until its executives woke up one December morning to find out that the movie was going day and date on the service without the benefit of a negotiation. Legendary's even more expensive picture, Dune, and I think Dune was upwards of like $200 million, is getting the same treatment. The other companies that finance Warner movies, Village Roadshow and Braun, are also said to be aggrieved parties that might end up going to court. Surprise, surprise, everyone sues everybody in Hollywood. And then there's the talent. Dune director Denis Villeneuve is said to be among those who felt most strongly that a traditional big screen release was essential for his film. Well, to be fair, he's in the same category as guys like Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino, where they're a bunch of purists. So do take his bias into consideration. Getting back to the article, Chu, who along with Lin-Manuel Miranda went through an intense courtship with multiple suitors for In the Heights, and who had turned down a huge Netflix offer for Crazy Rich Asians because he cherishes the communal theatrical experience, told an associate that he was shell-shocked after being informed of the Warner's decision. Sources say Warner Media insiders have been hoping that Disney will follow its lead and shift its slate to streaming, But Disney, sorry guys, but Disney, which had $7 billion grossing movies last year, isn't about to do that. Are you so sure? As I've brought up just prior, can Disney and Marvel continue to afford to hold out on Black Widow? Possibly not. It wouldn't shock me if Black Widow, Disney Plus original movie. Back to the article. Instead, it is moving some films to streaming as it did with Hamilton and Artemis Fowl, which, let's be fair, Artemis Fowl would have been a box office bomb anyway, likely Cruella and more. But an agent notes that the way Disney has handled the shift stands in stark contrast to what Warner's has done. Quote, they didn't do a unilateral thing, end quote, he says, adding that the studio executives made preemptive calls to talent and their reps to help smooth the process. It's also worth noting that Disney Plus is dwarfed HBO Max, blah, 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 Mandalorian. There's never been a... Yeah, here we go. Okay, here's the quote right here. There's never been a full-fledged franchise blockbuster launched on a streaming service, end quote, observes an executive at Warner's competitor. Quote, it starts with theaters and it starts with opening weekend, end quote. And they're not wrong. Another movie that was actually very successful on streaming was Trolls. If you remember the first Trolls movie, when that came out in 2016, it barely made its budget back in theaters, but then Netflix got the rights to stream it, and it became insanely successful. In fact, it was so successful for Netflix that DreamWorks did a holiday special for it like a year later, and then there was an animated show on Netflix for, that lasted about 4 years? But Trolls released to theaters first and then got popular. And so far, those blockbusters have been the ones that generate merchandise sales and theme park attractions. Yes, Warner's doesn't have theme parks, but it has reaped big benefits from movies that almost certainly would have been dropped onto HBO Max had the option been available at the time. Consider last year's mega hit Joker. Yes, Joker grossed over $1 billion last year. Film studio chief Emmerich was not a fan of the project. It was defended by worldwide marketing president Blair Rich, who was recently pushed out. Emmerich lowballed on the budget to discourage director Todd Phillips from making it, and when the filmmaker persisted, sold off half the movie. Joker then became a cultural phenomenon that grossed more than $1 billion worldwide, was honored with 11 Academy Award nominations and an Oscar for Joaquin Phoenix. Would any of that happen had Joker been dropped onto HBO Max? It probably would have still received the praise, but the whole Academy Award nominations and Oscar bullshit, yeah, that wouldn't have happened, and neither would have been making $1 billion. So they do have a point there. But I still think Joker would have been, a much beloved movie, and with Joker being a smaller movie, yeah, I could see that going to HBO Max. Despite their assertions to the contrary, many industry insiders believe that neither AT&T chairman Stanky nor Killar has much interest in the legacy movie business. Killar has stated that this move was made for the fans and told CNBC, quote, if we start our days and end our days focused on the customer, we're going to lead the industry, end quote. And they have a point there. If you give customers the choice, you're going to raise the stock of your streaming service by a metric fuck ton. Back to the article, that brings to mind a line in the new Netflix movie, Mank, a warning delivered to the upstart Orson Welles by grizzled veteran Herman Mankiewicz. Quote, you, my friend, are an outsider, a self-anointed savior, hyphenate, just waiting to loathe you. And by the way, that Mank was that was the making of Citizen Kane, for those that didn't know. Last paragraph of the article, it also leaves out a long-standing Hollywood maxim, content is king. And content comes from artists who aren't always motivated purely by money. They're not wrong about that. Says an agent who represents extremely important talent with business at Warner's, quote, you had a decades-long legacy as being known as the most talent-friendly studio. Now you've gone from that to a studio that, in starburst colors, lit up a sign that said, we don't give a fuck about talent, end quote. Let's be honest, this whole thing was just a giant hit piece of how, offering consumers the choice, wah is a bad idea, is a bad idea going forward, because how else is Christopher Nolan gonna stroke his ego now? Oh, boo hoo hoo! And here's gonna be the funny part, and I'm gonna segue a little bit, and then we're gonna come right back. But Universal supplants Warner Brothers as Hollywood's box office hero. The previous company that was said to, they want to destroy the box office forever. Now they're getting praised because, now Warner Brothers is the bad guy, but now Universal, we want to suck on your fucking dick. So anyway, this article is not, terribly long. The Comcast-owned studio had been public enemy number one after shortening the theatrical window to 17 days, until Warner's came along and announced December 3rd that it will debut its entire 2021 slate on HBO Max and in cinemas simultaneously. Universal and DreamWorks Animation's The Croods: A New Age topped another tough weekend at the North American box office with $4.4 million for a 10-day domestic total of $20.4 million amid the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. By Christmas, though, the animated family film will be available in the home via premium VOD. I think a lot of people are holding out for that. I personally have never even seen the first Croods movie, but, okay. After months of being derided for daring to use the pandemic destroying the theatrical window to as short as 17 days, Universal has suddenly supplanted Warner Brothers as Hollywood conquering box office hero, while the latter studio has become a persona non grata on December 3rd, blah, blah, blah. We already went over that. The initiative orchestrated by Jason Clara, blessings. A lot of the stuff had we've talked about at length thus far. Okay, here, quote, Universal just a short while ago was the enemy of the biz. With the Warner move, Universal has moved from the outhouse to the penthouse, says one rival studio executive. Before the pandemic, the traditional 3-month theatrical window was sacrosanct. Cinema operators had enough clout to prevent Hollywood studios from experimenting with windows. COVID-19 changed things. Obviously, quote, keeping up with the almost constant evolution of theatrical release strategies by studios in reaction to the pandemic over the past many months has been a challenge, to say the least. Hardly a week goes by without a new and increasingly confusing variation of a hybrid or big screen / small screen release model, says Paul, and I'm going to butcher the fuck out of his name, Paul Durgarbedian. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm even gonna try. Of ComScore. We've already discussed that. December 4th to 6. PVOD isn't widely available overseas, obviously. Okay, but yeah, okay, here we go. Quote, the bottom line is that movie theaters operate in an environment that is heavily dependent on two main variables: a well-managed pandemic response and appealing new movies to drive people to the multiplex, says the guy from ComScore. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name again. Strategies that serve that end should be welcomed by all parties and should be viewed as solutions to a highly unusual and ever-evolving set of circumstances. However, sweeping pronouncements about the future of the business should be put on hold, since as history has shown us, things can look a whole lot different in a very short amount of time, end quote. Which, yeah, I do think, now I will give these guys that Warner Brothers announcing that all of the 2021 slate was, pulling the cart before the horse. They should have waited to see if Wonder Woman was going to be successful, and if it was, then yeah, go ahead and make that move. But, and then the last article that just came out, this was on December 8th. This is going to be uploaded December 10th. So I'm recording this on the morning of the 9th. So 2 days ago, as of the upload of this, the Hollywood Reporter put out an article. AT&T CEO defends Warner Brothers' streaming plan. HBO Max nears 12.6 million activated subs. Surprise, surprise, they would see an uptick. John Stankey called the bet a win-win-win that fits current market trends and consumer psyche amid the coronavirus pandemic. And guys, I swear to you, I know that we have been going for an awful long time this episode. This is now officially the longest episode of TMRP at over an hour and 13 minutes thus far. This is going to be the last article for the episode. So AT&T's Warner Media is, quote, ahead of plan on its HBO Max streaming service, nearing 12.6 million activated users, and can use the decision to bring its 2021 film slate to the service and cinemas to, quote, accelerate that further to, quote, penetrate the market faster, the telecom giant CEO told an investor conference on Tuesday. John Stankey, during his appearance at the UBS Global TMT virtual conference, called the decision a win-win-win for the company, its partners, and consumers that fits under current market trends and consumer psyche amid the coronavirus pandemic, which, I'm not entirely against them, playing to your customer base. That's how you succeed in business. Stanky called the lack of theatrical business due to the pandemic, quote, unfortunate. Licensing films to other streamers is like giving, quote, competitors additional arms, though, which is why, quote, we knew we needed to try something different. He added, quote, getting the product out into the market is important. And he warned snowplowing all films in late 2021 or 2022 won't help the market. In the end, he argued the market will be dictated by what the consumers choose to do. And that's what I've been saying this entire time. So 2 things. Number 1, snowplowing all the films in the late 2021 or 2022. He does have a point. If you have a crowded market, nobody is making any money from that. Because at some point, if you're Warner Brothers, you're not just competing against Universal. You're not just competing against Disney. You're not just competing against MGM. You are eventually going to have to compete against yourself. In a crowded market, almost nobody makes money. So at some point, you're going to have to offload some of these movies direct to streaming. And, and then he argued the market will be dictated by what consumers choose to do. If the vast majority of consumers choose to stream on HBO Max versus going to theaters, they're going to probably stick with that plan going forward. But if the pendulum swings the other way where, we're going to wait for the theaters to reopen, I can wait for that, then, where's the harm in that? If the vast majority choose that, hey, we want to go the streaming route over the theatrical route because we're kind of fucking tired of theaters. Continuing on with the article, quote, having choice is a good thing at this time, he argued. Quote, we are doing both theatrical and streaming at the same time rather than putting one above the other. Quote, we'll adjust if the cinema business returns from the pandemic hit. Again, if the majority of people choose that, I want to go and see these movies on the big screen and not on my TV, then fine, we'll adjust it, is basically the PR spin that he's doing. Warner Media has drawn criticism from Warner Brothers' decision to follow up its decision to send Wonder Woman 1984 to HBO Max, December 25th. We've already talked about that. The studio on Thursday announced day and date releases, blah, blah, blah. We've already done that. Quote, some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed that night. Yeah, that's, Christopher Nolan, boo-hoo-hoo. He just wants to placate to his ego. Acknowledging criticism from Nolan, but also Cinema Group, Stanky added, quote, I know there's a lot of noise out in the market, people with different viewpoints, end quote, but that happens, quote, anytime you are going to change a model, and that is true. You are going to have those purists come out and go, no, this is the way that the industry has to be, even though the market is completely shifting out from under them. Discussing the traditional pay TV bundle, the AT&T boss on Tuesday also said that it, quote, has seen its best days. The firm has been considering selling a stake in its DirecTV satellite TV operation. Stanky said the 12.6 million activated subscriber mark for HBO Max could be hit on Wednesday. Okay, so from this being written, that would be today. That would be today, the 9th. This was written on the 8th. So by the time you're actually listening to this, it would have been yesterday. I have to try to wrap my head around that. The Warner Media streaming service has reached 28.7 million total subscribers, including 8.6 million, quote, activated users as of the end of the third quarter. And again, those 28.7 million total subscribers, some of those are probably on the not the free version, but the if you have AT&T, if you're at a certain level, you do get HBO Max for free. It's just how many people have, activated that subscription. The company highlights activations because consumers can not only get HBO Max directly from Warner Media, but also via paid TV providers, which requires them to download the HBO Max app on their smart TVs or other devices. The same is true for customers on AT&T's unlimited wireless and fiber broadband plans. Activations count the people who download or activate the HBO Max app. All right, guys, the article is almost over here. Stanky, who during the two, which that's actually a pretty bad name. I can imagine he got a lot of shit for that back during his school days. But anyway, Stanky, who during Tuesday's video appearance sat in front of a screen showing an AT&T 5G logo and the HBO Max logo, said his team has done, quote, a great job restructuring our debt over the past few months and will shed tangential assets that may cause distractions from the core focus of the company. That can also help with accelerating a restructuring that has started yielding benefits. He said, and yes, there is rumor that that they are going to sell off the DC, the comics publishing division. They're going to keep DC as a company, but the comics division that they're going to attempt to sell off. That's just rumor right now. That I don't know if it's been confirmed. But ending the article here, guys, quote, "It's about creating connections," he said about that, mentioning the firm wants to enable users to create such connection with each other and with, quote, "content that they find most importantly to them," end quote. And guys, I feel like I've given my 2 cents a whole lot during this episode, given that we have gone now for, holy shit, nearly an hour and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here because we've gone on for long enough. So let's end for where you guys can follow me. If you are not following me already, I do have a blog that is metropolisradio.blogspot.com. I do post there quite frequently. I use that more as social media to alert you guys to the newest uploads. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Metropolis. That is with a capital M, lowercase e, T, R, capital O, lowercase b, E, L, I, S, K. Now, if you cannot fucking stand Twitter, which I do not blame any of you, I am also on Parler with the exact same handle, @Metropolis. And also, guys, I am doing gaming live streams every Friday night around 10 p.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time. I am now doing those over on the YouTube channel and not the Twitch channel anymore because I am fucking tired of Twitch. And one last thing, if you enjoy the content that I produce, then please subscribe to both the YouTube and BitChute channels. It's a small click for you, but for a small channel like mine, it genuinely helps out a lot. Also, like, comment, and share this around only if you want to. The links to the blog, YouTube channel, and social medias are all in the description below of the platform that you're watching this on. And that is going to do it for TMRP, the Metropolis Radio Podcast this week. So I will see you guys next time.